Hi there, I'm Karen Dunn of KMD Productions. From the equipment manufacturers to the engineers to the business people behind the scenes. Over the years, every member of the Pro Audio corner of the music industry have become family to me, and it's my job to bring the whole eclectic crew together. Each episode, I'll introduce you to one of these characters and open a window into my world of creating community in Pro Audio. Thanks for tuning in to One and Dunn. Hi, today we're welcoming Sylvia Massy, producer, mixer, engineer, instructor, and author. Hi, Sylvia. Thanks for being on my podcast.
Hi, Karen. Great to be here.
Now, I was trying to think where we met, and I don't know. I just feel like I've seen you forever.
Forever.
So whether it's Pensado Awards or Tech Awards or some event. So we've traveled in the same circles for a long time. Okay, so I want to start. I know that art plays a really big part in your life. And music plays a big part in your life. So has your art influenced your music, or has your music influenced your art?
Oh, God. They come from the same part of the brain, I think, the creative ideas. So right. One thing I've found is that when I have an engineer on a session and I'm doing a mix or something, where I don't have to be hands-on, that I'll be in the back of the room painting, and then the painting really gets influenced by the music that's playing in the room. So that's one of my favorite things to do, and that was a big surprise that I've got all like a collection of session paintings, and they all kind of have a story behind them because they were done in a session while the music was playing.
I actually have this farther down in my questions for you, but I'm really fascinated by this whole art aspect of it. You paint really unique. You have a unique style, and your subjects are unique. Is it all based on you're hearing music in the studio and it triggers something in your brain?
You know, it absolutely is triggering something. I don't know. Some of them make no sense at all. I mean, if you got a minute, I could grab one and show just a really simple. Hang on one sec. Hang on. I'll grab one here. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Hello. All right. So I brought one of these session paintings, and let me see if I could get a good view of it. There it is.
Hold it. Wow.
Is it the right direction? It says dust on it, and it's a zebra. And I have no idea why I painted the zebra. I have no idea.
Wow.
The music had nothing to do with zebras, so. But it's a nice painting, and it turned out all right. Yeah, you never know how they're going to turn out.
Yeah. So were you into art, the art form, before you started music, or was music your first interest?
Oh, also, I came from a family that my mother was an opera singer and my father was a mechanical engineer. So I had influences from music and from drawing very early. Mm-hmm. But I've always had a knack for art, and that's something that I can do on my own without, collaborating with anyone. I could just, illustration is very easy for me, and it's almost been so easy that I kind of put it off and put it in my back pocket, and I'll save that for later in my life. And now I'm excited to really explore that art and painting and and go as far as I can with it while I've still got time on the earth.
Right. Yeah. And you've had books made. I've seen posters of your work. I've seen the actual art pieces. Is there anything that you haven't done yet with your art, some way that you want to show people?
Ooh, well, yes. And there's some exciting opportunities come up. I can't talk about them yet, but, crossing fingers, I'll be doing some very big art. Very, very
awesome.
big. And then it would be, like bigger than billboard size. So,
wow.
And that's very exciting. I haven't done that yet.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll stop talking about art for just a little bit.
Okay.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about your whole background, your music story, how you started, And I know that you were you had time in LA and you were based in Weed, and I want to hear the Weed story, and then you're now up in Oregon. So if you could just talk about, it seems like with most people I talk to, their path is never linear. It's always kind of, eventually they get to where they're going, and people don't usually know where they're going, but, they end up there. So how did you get to where you are now?
I never thought that I would be doing what I'm doing, but my 19-year-old self would really be happy about it. But yeah, I was I had a knack for the art when I was young, but I loved music, and music was in my life all the time. So when I went to university, it was a choice of what I wanted to do. I gravitated into music just because there was more social contact. Art can be very lonely and solitary. Sure. Yeah. But at the time, I was really into radio. It was a great time for college radio, so I started there. I did radio production. I got to know the tools of recording that way. And then got some commercial jobs in San Francisco and did that for a while, radio production. But my passion was music, and I still was also doing my own music with a band, an all-girl band, actually.
Oh, nice.
And in San Francisco. And so I got a job at a studio called Bear West, and I would record there my own music at night. Some people would really like the recordings that I did, the productions that I did on my own music, so they would ask, "Hey, will you do it for me?" So that's how I got started. I never really was an a runner or an assistant, and I never went to school for this. I just kind of there were no classes for music recording when I was in college. It was only broadcasting, so I did broadcasting. That was my way in. But I did really well, actually, I thought, in San Francisco, eventually doing some co-productions with Kirk Hammett and the Sea Hags and, lots of punk bands. But the opportunities didn't come to me for the major labels. And when the project I did with Kirk Hammett got signed to Chrysalis, it was like, oh, this is my big chance. I'm going to produce a major label record, me in San Francisco, and the band immediately went to LA and worked with Mike Klink, who had just finished Guns N' Roses. So I couldn't compete with that. Yeah. So I was like, well, what do I do? And the decision was, well, I better go to LA. If I really am serious about it, go to LA. And so I did, and couldn't get a job. Couldn't get a job for a while. But I worked at Tower Records. I got a retail job, and that's where I met all the people that really changed my life. The members of Green Jello and the Tool members, and I made a lot of great friends there who I still have today, actually. But that was my jumping off point. I continued to try to get studio jobs while I was working at Tower, and you hand off a resume, and it goes right in the trash. It's really uninteresting usually. So I went for a kind of a desperate measure, and I decided that I was going to make a fake Weekly World News cover and have my picture on the front that was like and I made a fake headline, and it said, "Evil Elvis has come back from the dead and has taken Sylvia Massy hostage, and the only way she could be saved is if you give her a job." And then I stapled that onto that old resume and went around to the same places. Immediately the next day, I got 4 offers from different studios, and it was like, what was it? Well, anyway, I eventually got to work at Larrabee, which connected me into the Prince camp, and I started working with Prince, and then Rick Rubin. That's where we met up finally there, even though we'd been running around with the same groups, and that's where my jumping off point was in LA, and from there I spent another 15 years there, something like that. Finally got it out of my system, and then I was like, hey, I think I want to go have a family, and so I moved up north to go marry a guy and live in Weed, California, on a 50-acre ranch. Oh my goodness!
Before we talk about weed, so what kind of music did you grow up listening to? So your mom was an opera singer, so obviously you listened to opera, but what did you listen? What else did you listen to? And do you think it ultimately influenced the way that you engineer and produce things?
Goodness, absolutely. I can think of some very influential records. One is Moody Blues, Days of Future Past, because it's like a concept album with spoken word and orchestrations and great songs, and that was a big one for me because I could just get myself into that and suspend disbelief.
Right.
Pink Floyd. My first experience listening to Dark Side of the Moon, of course, drugs were involved. I was a teenager. And that changed my whole view on things. It's, there's so many influences. The Led Zeppelin 2. I think I found Led Zeppelin 2 at a yard sale, and I made my mom get it. And I think it was in the yard sale because some other parent was like, "Nah, you got to get it." So I bought it, and that was great too. And I listened to that today, and I go, "Oh, I hear that edit," and I could. It's a different listen today than it was back then because I'm so fine tuned into the details anymore.
Right. Did you have you been able to work with any of the people that worked on those albums that were so pivotal for you?
Well, incredibly, yes. I mean, I know them like Alan Parsons for one is I've done projects, different types of projects, educational things with him, and he's a giant.
Yeah.
I've met some other fantastic people. Jeff Emmerich was, the Beatles engineer, and I got to interview him
guy.
for the
he was
a
so
sweetheart,
nice.
and he's gone now. But
yeah,
there's others. Oh, there's dozens. My heroes. They're all my heroes. It's amazing.
It is. I grew up listening to a bunch of records. Then I became friends with a lot of people who engineered and produced them. It's just like I would never have thought when I was, younger that I would actually know these people and hang out with them. It's just such a strange thing,
isn't it? Yeah.
So tell me about Weed, because I know you had a studio there. And Weed is a tiny little town. So how did that happen?
I don't know. It's a strange story. I moved up there to go have babies, and the babies didn't happen for me. And it was a little disappointing, but I just got back into work right away. There was an old theater in downtown Weed that was vacant, and so we moved my Neve out of Sound City up into this old theater, and then I ran a studio there for almost 20 years, and It was ripping, and I can't understand why, because we started with one room, and then we opened a second room, and I bought another building next door, and another building, and then we had 3 buildings, and then we built the upstairs mix room with a humongous J series SSL, 1998. It was 80 channels. It was so big. We had 2 mixes at all times, one for the day shift and one for the night shift. I was like 40 channels over here, 40 channels. It was ripping there. And then we had ultimately 5 different studios in Weed, a town of 3,000 people.
It's not easy to get there. But people went.
Well, it's, first of all, it's a town called Weed, so anyone who's a musician is instantly interested. And it is on the 5, so it's a direct drive.
True. Yeah.
It's a lot of touring bands actually drive right through Weed, and they laugh as they go by, or it's 3 o'clock in the morning usually. But so Weed, was a great experience. We would oftentimes have 3 or 4 projects going at the same time, and I had different engineers in every room, and I would bounce between rooms. And I learned this from Prince, because when I worked with Prince, he always had 4 sessions going, one where he's tracking, one's where he's mixing, one's, and he would just bounce between. So I thought, well, this is a way I can make money and do this. I had a lot of accommodations for bands, so there was always places for them to stay, and the accommodations were better than tour bus, or regular van. So a lot of bands didn't mind it at all. In fact, it was fun. Everyone got together for dinners, and a lot of engineers came through there that were coming in from other countries, and fantastic. It was really a special time. Ultimately, though, I've hung that one up. I'm out of weed, and I'm up here in Ashland, Oregon, which is nearby, but it's a much more cultivated environment here. There's a arts district, and there's a real downtown shopping district, and it's a fun place.
Tell me about your studio in Ashland.
Oh, well, this is my dream studio. It finally, all the gear that I've been dragging around with me forever is all in one place, for the most part, and installed into this one room in an old auto garage, radiator shop, I guess, and the console is made up of 3 or 4 different smaller consoles, all put into a big horseshoe. It's a fantastic place. We just installed a Atmos system. Actually, it's 2 years of installation on this Atmos system, and it is operating, and we're ripping these Atmos mixes, and it's fantastic. So there's 17 speakers in the Constellation. The one behind my head right here, that's the old stereo, the big ones from this. That's not even from the Atmos rig, but the rest, it's all Genelec. I'm a big Genelec fan, so the old stereo stuff and the new Atmos system is all Genelec. I'm a gear nerd. Sorry, I could talk about gear all day.
We'll talk about that. But wait a minute, you're in an old radio.
It's a
radiator.
Yeah, radiator shop. In fact, the lift. We pulled 2 lifts out. There's still a lift on the other side, but
So what kind of work did you have to do then the inside to make it so sound good?
I am the type of person that drops my equipment in the middle of a room and we begin. It's it did take a long time to get the finished walls and everything, but I started working immediately in the open room. We did put in walls to the outside, so the old roll of doors are gone now. I think we still got a track on the ceiling for one, but no, I can't believe how great it is now. What was a garage door now opens up onto this beautiful patio with this garden.
Oh, nice, very nice.
Yeah, and my little dog runs around here, and it's just fun.
And it sounds like what you call adventure recording.
I guess. This seems like a real studio compared to some of the situations I've been in.
I love that adventure recording. It just sounds so cool. What was your thought process to start this? I've heard the story about the piano going down the street and someone shooting it. So, how do you start this whole idea? And it seems to maintained momentum, right? And so I don't know anybody else that's doing this.
I don't know. It just seems like a natural thing to do, is that if you go out of your comfort zone, which I think is the studio where everything works the way it supposedly works the way it should, you can depend on it and it doesn't get in the way. I like to create situations where the equipment has to be put together on the spot or carried in, and maybe there's a time limit to how much time you have to set it up. Oh boy, there's been some interesting and fun situations where we had exactly 1 hour to run down into the London Underground, into this abandoned tube station that I got permission for 1 hour to go down there and record. And we ran. It was like there's no elevator to get down there. It was like way deep, and we set up on 2 sides of the platforms. There's 2 platforms, and we got drums on one and we got drums on another, and I had remote recording equipment, this sound devices, portable rigs, and we got it. That's the adventure recording that I want to do, is stuff that the recording, when you listen back to it, you can feel the intensity of the moment and what we were doing, and the incredible acoustics of the train station too.
But it's got to be scary, right? Because you don't know if any of these things are going to work.
And sometimes they don't.
But
once,
and if they,
can I tell you a story about?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, when it didn't work was I had a chance to go up to the bell tower in Prague, in the castle in Prague, in the cathedral, and record the bells. Now the bells start ringing at a certain time, and there was one chance to get it. So I brought all my equipment, a laptop. I brought an extra power supply for my interface. I had, so I had 2 power supplies and everything. I ran up there, set it all up. I was ready. And then it came to, they were getting ready to ring the bell, and my interface wouldn't even power up. I don't know what happened. Yeah, complete disaster. And then I changed power supplies, still nothing, dead. I wound up recording it on my iPhone, and we did use it in the record, but you wouldn't know the chaos that came in front of that. So it still worked out, but it's part of a story that I can tell forever. And the client, also my client, Adrian T. Bell, he still talks about it. Of course.
So the people who you're working with, when they come in, do they expect unique recording situations like this from you? Is that one of the things that they want from you when they're having you work with them?
Well, I'll always make recommendations on what we should do. It depends on the time that we have. I'll always consider that the recording of the piece of music is the most important thing. So if we're ahead of schedule, we'll schedule that adventure recording day. Let's take a day. We're ahead of schedule. Oftentimes I'll wait until I get every last track finished and then say, let's try something over here. So I want to make sure that we don't lose the ability to finish this record in a great way, right, if the experimentation doesn't work out.
Right.
But it always seems to, add something to it. There was another crazy one that I did with the Machines of Love and Grace, and this was in Malibu. We were recording at a place called Indigo Ranch. It was up on a cliff above the ocean. And what we did was we dragged a whole rig, got the super long extension cords all connected together to get this rig up to the cliff, and then we had a sacrificial guitar that we started the session with, that we bought. I bought it for like $30. It was like a no name, and then we drilled holes in it, and tied ropes to it, and we decorated it like it was going to be the sacrificial, virgin. It was all decorated, and then brought it to the cliff and got the best feedback squeal out of it as it was being thrown off the cliff, and it fell down and broke into pieces, and all down to the ocean. And then we pulled the rope up and brought it up, and it was in pieces. Anyway, I was recording it on a DAT, and it just didn't translate. It didn't wind up making it to the record because I was just like, oh, that's a cool sound, but it doesn't really do anything. However, we'd finished the record, so it didn't matter. We'll never forget it.
Do you have a favorite sound that you've created through this whole process?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. Oh God, there's so many. I have to think of a really good one. A snare hit in a nuclear cooling tower.
Wow. How do you come up with these ideas?
It's like, I get together with these musicians and I say, hey, is there any interesting spaces around where you live? And for this band in particular, is a band called Thunder Pussy. They're Northwestern Washington State gals. And so they talked about this abandoned nuclear power plant and that there was some things there. And we got permission. Chris, my manager, he helped me get in there. So yeah, it's usually a collaboration with the people, like another artist recently, Driftwood Holly, is this acoustic. He's an acoustic player, generally. He's very folksy. He lives in the Yukon, and he built this little tiny houseboat, and he invited me, hey, come up, let's record on the houseboat. I'm like, oh, this sounds great. So we're in the middle of the river in the freaking Yukon, in the middle of nowhere. And we're recording on this little boat. And I brought really special mics for it. The recording actually came out so good. And then it was mixed for a film. It's just coming out now.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
What a relaxing atmosphere to be in anyway.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know,
for me it would have
you're
been
in the Yukon. It's like,
well, that's true too. It's not like you're in the Caribbean or anything.
Right.
That's true.
Caribbean's much better. No.
Yeah.
Yukon is a very special place. Very
it's just
special.
Not warm enough for me. So when you start working with a new artist, what's your process of, beforehand through that?
Yeah. I have to find out really what their what the intention of this recording would be. Let's say, are you making art, or are you shooting for a playlist somewhere on Apple Music or Spotify playlist? Come on. So tell me what you want, and then we will build the session around that first. And if it's art, I probably won't get involved in the songwriting aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But if it's a commercial venture, I'll make suggestions. And we'll start talking about that right away. How open are you to suggestions? If you're doing a commercial piece, then let's say that I would like you to be open, or just listen to my ideas. Sure, not every idea I have is a great one, or works for people. But I'm going to keep throwing them out there, and something sticks, and that's what you pay me for, and I do get paid. Yeah,
that's paying is good. Are there particular attributes from artists that you work better with?
I love it when an artist doesn't take themselves so seriously that they're precious about things have to be the certain way,
right? Yeah.
Or I can't play it on stage. That's something that kind of spoils a session. We can't record this part because who's going to play it when we play live? It's like, I don't know. Does it matter? I'm not sure. So, some of this is important to get out up front.
Now, do you ever have personality issues with artists that you're working with? And if you do, how do you deal with that?
I'm a pretty easy person to get along with, So I don't get a lot of that problem, but there have been a few clients where due to mental illness, and it's just impossible. And so I've had to actually at least once call a session and just say, sorry, we can't do this, Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I get along. Sometimes the band members don't get along with each other. That seems to be more of the challenge. And then I'll take them, I'll make sure that, when their parts are done, go do something else, So, yeah.
Now, for students now, you're graduating or just graduated, and they want to be an engineer, or, they want to get into the business. I've talked to some people who think that, everybody can have a skill level, but they can be taught the skill. But it's the other aspects that can't be taught. Being able to be the good hang kind of thing. And
the good hang, yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think is most important for these new people trying to get in?
Be a good hang. That's like a big one. Know your stuff, too. If you, start out knowing your stuff. Try to be prepared. There's been... one of my early sessions, I had an opportunity to work with Smashing Pumpkins. Oh my God, big fan here, and it was I'd never met them before. I was really excited. I knew all about the band. I knew the instrumentation. So the night before the session at Sound City, I brought in a friend's band that knew how to do covers of Smashing Pumpkins songs, and they had the same instrumentation. I set it up. I was so prepared for that session. I had every mic dialed in, all the headphones working great, and they just sat down, and I just put it in record, and they just started playing, and that was like the biggest satisfaction. If you do that and you're starting out, that's the kind of stuff that the bands love and the producers love, because they just no one likes to sit around and wait and have someone
Right.
going ding 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 on the snare drum. It's like
So
yeah.
it's personal motivation, right? You're pushing yourself to. It's like you're overachieving to be able to achieve what you want to do. You have to have
And
extra knowledge.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
the extra studying time, the extra hours, making sure everything is exactly the way it should be.
It depends on how much you want that gig. We're so competitive with each other that we'll go overboard to be better than the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So and it's still competitive today. I mean, we're all good friends. The community, when I meet all my friends at NAMM every year, I haven't seen them for a while, and we all hug and we're like patting each other on the back. Oh, you got that gig, good for you. And then turn around and go, that should have been my gig. But we all love each other. Yeah. It's true.
So I imagine that when you first started working, you were allowed to create and take your time to achieve a certain sound. It seems now that things have to get done faster.
Oh
And
my
there's
God,
not
I
that
think it's
time.
the other way around.
Do you really?
Oh yeah, because I was just talking to my engineer Ian the other day about working on a mix and having the time to work on it, to get the details, and how in the 90s and in the early 2000s it was it's expensive. That studio time, it was exclusive club. No one had the stuff at their home, and it cost it was $2,000 a day to have me sitting in a studio somewhere, or more. $2,000 to $3,000 paying for everything, and the labels were paying for that. Oh boy, you better get that stuff done fast.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, seriously, it's way easier now to get more creative. And in fact, the bigger challenge is actually getting something done, because you used to have bookends on the other sessions
Right,
before.
yeah.
You had to get it done at this time. Now it's just like, is it done? We'll try this. Oh, it's not as good. Let's go back. Da, 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 da. Yeah.
What one piece of advice would you give someone who wants to be you and they're just starting their pathway now?
Well, don't take yourself too seriously. Don't be precious. Also, if you're a woman, you have to be able to take comments, perhaps, and let it roll off your back. You gotta.
Yeah.
It's there's a to really be. Let's see. I guess I'm going off into the woman thing, but there's not a lot of us out there, and so yeah, it would be nice to see more women doing this, but I understand why they're not here. It's babies and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So let's talk about gear, as much as that's not my favorite subject,
Yeah.
but I know that you like it. So you love microphones, or is it all gear? But it sure seems you love microphones. So how did that all start? How did your microphone museum start? What got you into all that?
I didn't start collecting the vintage mics until it was I was working on the Tool record, Undertow, and it was after that, actually. It was after Undertow. We were just getting into Enema and starting out pre-production for Enema, and I bought a big box of crazy old microphones from a place called Black Market Music. I brought them into the session, and I was like, these are for Maynard, we'll try this and this and this. So that was my first collection. Ultimately, I didn't even work on that record beyond that short pre-production. But I still have those mics, and some of them, have become very special. There's sounds that I can get with these old CB mics that I can't get with a $10,000 Telefunken. So I just have continued to collect. And then the opportunity came up a couple of years ago to actually buy a collection. It was because Chris and I were we are currently writing a book on vintage microphones, and we had this opportunity come up. It was Bob Paquette's collection in Wisconsin. And somehow Chris wrangled it. We got the mics, we were paying him off. And so we have the largest collection of microphones in the world now. It's almost 3,000 mics. And it goes from the very first mics from the I think our oldest mic is 1875. I'm looking at Chris right now. He's saying 1875.
Yes,
That's before Alexander Graham Bell did his, though. I thought he was 1876. I think ours is 1878 is our oldest, and it's a carbon.
Have you used it?
Yes, I have. I wonder if I can grab it. Would you mind if I go grab it?
No. Yeah. Please.
Okay, hang on. I'm back. Oh, headphones. Okay, hang on. All right. So I have brought this mic. It's from 1878. It's David Edward Hughes, and it's a little carbon pencil inside this wooden box. Wow. That is the element of the mic right there. That is what vibrates when you talk into this. So I did actually use it on a session from 1878, and I put power on it, 9-volt battery on one side, and had a little earpiece, and it works. So we recorded a vocal with it on a session.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun.
Did you know that you would be able to get all these different sounds through with these different old mics?
I am very surprised that the old mics, they still work. And this had something to do with the simplicity of the design. The early designs, they didn't require, some of them didn't require electricity at all. Like the crystal mics, for instance, are actual slices of rock crystal that that generates a pulse, an electrical pulse, when it's vibrated. So you suspend it and you get it vibrating, and it creates a signal. Yeah, I never knew that. And the same thing with this darn carbon. This is a burnt stick, basically. That is a burnt stick, and the carbon mic started this way. Isn't that something?
That's crazy.
The guy who designed this, David Edward Hughes, was the person who decided that to granulate the carbon, and then the later carbon mics, including all the telephones that we all used for years with carbon microphone elements, they all used the granulated carbon from the guy who built this. That's amazing. Anyway, history, amazing. Love it.
So, do you have a favorite vintage mic?
Oh my God, there's so many great ones. I'm looking at the wall here. I don't want to make you dizzy, but I can show you the wall.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. And then we'll get back right here too. Look at this. Over here is our mic collection. This is part of it. The rest of it is in the other side of the building, but that's some of it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the great thing is I can use them.
Are you going to ever open your studio so people can come in and see them?
We're getting ready for that, actually. But we're still a ways off because there's just so much work in here to do before we're ready to let the public in. But we're building the displays, and at some point we will have it open.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what the mic that you showed me, the 18 whatever. So
yes.
What exactly does it sound like? Can you show us?
It's very hollow sounding and weak, very weak. But it has a thing. There's another experiment that I'd like to do. Some of the other equipment that came from the museum are Victrolas and Edison wax cylinder recorders and players. And we have one of those, and I'm looking for blank wax cylinders so I could do some experimental recording and playback on an album. I think that would be really fun. So I'm going to try that.
That's very cool. And what's the name of your microphone collection? Do you have a name for it?
It's originally the Paquette collection, but now the studio is called the Audio Shop. So it's the Audio Shop Microphone Museum. I think
it's spelled differently.
Right. It's ODDIO, not like audio like AUDIO. It's ODDIO. And there's a story to that. Would you like to hear? Okay.
Yes, I would.
Well, audio in Italian is "oh God," and if and it's so. Whenever I'm sitting in this studio, it makes me say that. Oh God, I get so excited being in this studio that it's just oh God. So that's why it's audio.
That's very funny. You give back all the time. I see you on panels. I see you in webinars. You do my speed mentoring all the time.
It's wonderful.
Thank you. So why do you do that? Why is that important to you?
Oh, it's just the exchange of the universe, right? You give, you get back, and it's true. I've never been disappointed in making an effort to help someone with their career and get started in this. It's a crazy business. It's a wonderful business, though, and if you didn't know about it, you would miss so much. So as much as I can help people get into it, and then it gives me a gold star for later. Maybe I'll get a gig out of it from some, right? Or maybe they won't compete with me. No, it's okay.
One of the things I always talk about in the podcast, I talk about the importance of community. So for me, pro audio community is just, I love this community. So what does community mean to you? It's not a very big community. No. It used to be much more exclusive, but it's actually grown and gotten real fun. People, what I've noticed is that it's not just an American phenomenon or British. It's like a worldwide phenomenon. And the people who know how to use this equipment and are making decisions and helping people record their music is a special skill, I think, and it takes a special personality. So we get along really good, and we share information. Sometimes we don't share information, but we love each other, and it's great. It's a great hang whenever we can join up again, and I can't wait to hang out with you again too, Karen. Hopefully before too long.
I hope so too.
So work-life balance is how do you achieve that? Because it's totally important, right? And we talk about mental health a lot, and and being able to balance both. So what do you do in your life to achieve? And I've talked to a lot of people who don't have balance at all.
It's easy to be a workaholic because it's not work. It's really fun, and it can be work, and it oftentimes is. But the satisfaction is so great when you do something like this. And the work-life balance for me is finding a way to detach from someone else's music to work on my own art. And so I'm forcing myself into to doing art. And Chris has to remind me. He's like, you should be drawing. If I'm not in the studio, I should be drawing. And he's right. So that's the change that's happening in my life right now. I'm trying to stay home more often because I also have an aging parent that I'm taking care of or keeping track of. So, but I am still I got one more production project on the books before I stay home for mixing until further notice, I think. And that's a German project that I'm going to head out for next month, recording on an estate in Cologne
And we're building a studio from scratch. It's
Oh,
gonna be
nice.
fantastic.
Nice. So you've traveled a lot. Do you think that has influenced the way you approach your work life and what you're looking for?
Well, whenever I set up a session, I try to get a lot of life experience out of that trip. So if I'm going to Finland, I'm going to be downtown. I want to be in Helsinki. I want to fly up and visit my friends at Genelec. I want to go, I really want to see the sights. So Paris is wonderful, and I've been there several times, but I am expecting for these trips to end. So I'm trying to get all that life stuff in before it's time to stay home. And God, I'll tell you, I have traveled the world and done some crazy ass things in different places, and it's been a fantastic life so far.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I know. I travel in the U.S. for work, and I used to go to wherever airport, hotel, venue, hotel, out, and say, "Oh, I've gone to all these places in the U.S." But then I realized I wasn't experiencing any of them, and so about 5 years ago, I decided I started taking extra days and actually experiencing where I was and talking to people who live there and going to museums, and it really changed my whole perspective on so many things.
Where's a good place that you've spent some time?
Well, you know what I really liked was Chicago. I'd been in and out of the airport a million times,
of course,
but never really stayed. And so, I did the river tour and looked with all the architecture, which just blew my mind. That was so cool. And went to the museum and had some good food. And these are people in a regular job that you would never meet. If I had an office desk job, I wouldn't, I run into sales guys all the time wherever I'm traveling, and they're from some flyover state that I haven't been to, and they have these jobs I've never heard of, and it's so interesting to meet all these different people and their different perspectives on life. So it's my favorite part.
And the learning about different cultures, like in Europe, and right now I'm corresponding with a really sweet engineer fellow from Odessa, Ukraine. And he had a book. He had our book. He sent me a photo with and the war had started, and I was like, oh my God. So we write each other every day. And it's such a wonderful thing to have, we have this thing in common. We have engineering in common. We, share files, we listen and comment about each other's work. And so I'm hiring him for this.
Oh, that's great.
This job in Germany, and he's going to get out of the country, I hope, before, we're crossing our fingers everything works good for this.
Oh, that's great.
But it's also part of this whole adventure thing. Come on, let's live it. Let's live life. Let's see if we can help someone get out of a dangerous situation too at the same time. Oh my God. So we'll see how it turns out, but I have a feeling it's going to be great.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to end. My last question is always, I'm going to come to Ashland. We're going to get together. We're going to go out to eat, or we're going to have dinner. We're going to have dinner. So and I don't make decisions if I'm not working. So I need to know where we're going to eat, what we're eating, what we're drinking, the music we're listening to, and what we're talking about.
Oh boy. I would say if you're in Ashland, Oregon, hey Chris, where are we going to eat if we're in Ashland, Oregon for dinner? If we're taking Karen out to dinner, is it going to be Sauce?
We'd probably take her to Peerless.
Oh, Peerless. Well, Peerless is a fancy place.
We go to Sauce.
But Sauce is like this great, organic, all, super healthy. If you're a vegetarian, then it's got anything and everything for you. But they also have some, organic beef and all that. And oh my God, it's so good. So we'd go there, and you'd probably be drinking a hot chai tea, and oh God, and I don't know. Well, I don't drink. I used to drink.
But I don't drink.
I can drink or not drink, so I
Well,
like hot chai tea.
Okay, good. And what else? Oh, what are we listening to? The latest immersive. If we but they don't have immersive system at the. We'd have to get it to go and then bring it back here with our chai tea and listen to the immersive in the studio because it's just something else.
And I've never heard anything Atmos. So
Oh boy, get ready.
okay, so then what are we going to be talking about?
Huh?
What are we going to be talking about?
Oh, that's right, at dinner. Well, I'm afraid it's going to be super boring Atmos stuff because that's all. Right.
Well, as long as the music's good.
and- Yeah, I mean, that's really like 100% of what's going on here today. Anyway,
Yeah.
soon it will be back to art, but yeah, that's what we're into right now. Is that?
Okay, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This is great. I always love talking with you. Thanks for doing
thanks,
this.
Karen.